Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to see this. Tuning in, correct? I'm not even sure if that's the right term. My name is Holly Pike. I'm a member of the Long Range Mountains. Have invited several people who have run for office in various ways this evening. Experiences, because we thought that would be an interesting thing for people in general to listen to. So I'll begin. Acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the ancestral homelands of and can never be recovered. We also acknowledge the island of Damaguk, Newfoundland, as the unceded traditional and we acknowledge Labrador as the traditional Nitassining, the Inuit of Nunatsiavut, and the Inuit of Nunavut. We recognize all First Peoples who were here before us, those who live with us now. Peoples have done since time immemorial. And to respect the cultures, ceremonies. As we open our hearts and minds to the past, we commit ourselves to working in a spirit of truth and reconciliation to make a better future for all. So I'd like to introduce the members of our panel. Excuse me, there's a little background noise right now. First of all, Mary Feltham, whose pronoun date for Corner Brook with the NDP, which occurred on the same day as her convocation, where she was awarded her BSc in psychology. Pursue nursing. In between their advocacy work through student politics and involvement with the Social Justice Co-op of Newfoundland and Labrador. You can wave Mary. Melissa Sams, whose pronouns in their home territory, the Tamaqua, Codroy Valley, Newfoundland, representative for the NLNDP executive, and ran in the 2021 provincial election in St. George's, Humber. And they sit on the board of their local area development association. Melissa draws on their lived experience growing up and living in a rural Indigenous community and on an educational background in political science and business administration to fuel their work building a better future for their community, people, and province. Pamela Gill, whose pronouns are she, her, was elected to Corner Brook City Council in the 2021 municipal election. Until recently, she was the Zone 5 trustee for the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District and secretary for the Greater Corner Brook Board of Trade. She is vice chair of Theatre Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as a director of Canadian Parents for French. Pamela holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and French from Memorial University, a Bachelor of Journalism from the University of King's College, a Master's of Education from Memorial University, and a Master's Certificate in Project Management from York University. She's currently Manager of Communications, Research, Graduate Studies, and Engagement at Grenfell Campus, Memorial University. Kaila Mintz, whose pronouns are she, her, grew up in Corner Brook and was thrilled to return home in September 2020. Her work in the nonprofit sector focuses on tackling sexual violence. Always a multidisciplinarian, she holds a bachelor's degree in political science and international studies and a master's in immigration and settlement studies. Locally, she volunteers with SARA, the Sexual Assault Response and Advocacy Project, coaches youth cross-country skiing, and spends as much time outdoors as possible. Kaila ran as the federal candidate for the NDP in Long Range Mountains in Western Newfoundland in 2021. So thank you all for being here. It's an extremely well-educated group, it strikes me. A lot of degrees there. So I have, what I did earlier was do the classic, draw the names from a hat to decide who to answer, which question in which order. So I have, we just scroll through the names with each question. So for the first question, it'll be Pamela first, then Melissa, then Mary, and then Kaila. You have the opportunity to answer every question, but if there's a question that you don't want to answer, feel free to just say, move on. We're not going to make everyone answer every single question. So the first question is the most obvious one. What motivated you to run in the first place? So Pamela?
Thank you for that. I guess, and this might seem obvious, but strong female role models in my life. People like you, Holly. People like, I made a list, Goody Hutchings, Donna Thistle, who was mayor in Steadybrook, Priscilla Butcher, who was mayor in St. John's, in Corner Brook for many years, and Lynn Verge, of course. When I was a journalist, I covered Lynn frequently, and that was always exciting because I think she cut some trails, burned some trails, whatever that expression is. Also, I kind of always have wanted to, I don't know how long I get to go on for, but I'll just finish with this anecdote. So when I was probably 10, somebody was running for something and they left their business card, and I stuck my school photo over their photo, and I scratched out their logo and I said, "Uphill with Gill" on it. So maybe it was meant to be, I don't know, but anyway, but strong female role models is my official answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pamela. Melissa?
There was a few reasons. First and foremost was just conditions in my region and a lack of what I view to be real representation. Our rep has been white collar, or like people who've gone away for 30, 40, 50 years for a long time. And I wanted to see somebody on the ballot with real roots and a life in St. George's Humber. So, like, our current rep, he comes from the area, but like most people of his generation, he left for school and he didn't come back until he was almost retirement age. And then he ran for the election and got in. So it's hard to see all these candidates and these representatives who aren't really involved or connected to their communities anymore try and represent them. How can you represent a region that you aren't connected to anymore? How is your understanding of the issues within the district if you aren't experiencing them? So I figured if I want to see somebody like me on the ballot, why not let it be me? And it's something I've had an interest in ever since I was fairly young. Like, I went to youth parliament when I was a teenager, and I've always been pretty politically aware. So I figure I had a good enough understanding to make a go of it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Melissa. I'm just curious too, did any of the rest of you do the youth parliament movement just as a secondary? No, they're all shaking their heads. I wonder, I did that as a teenager too. It was great fun. Mary, what motivated you?
Yes, well, first, I did try to get youth parliament, but I didn't get it. So, oh, well, it's fine. It be that way sometimes. But what motivated me to run, I think, was ensuring that voices were heard. I was kind of aware that the chances of me being elected would be slim, being like a young female. Because even when I started knocking on doors, people were like, "Are you even old enough to vote?" And I was like, "Yes, I am. I have been for a while. Thank you for that." But being a student while I was still running, because although school had technically ended, I was still finishing up a few things with my theses and my independent and that type of thing. I recognized how little students' voices were actually listened to. I know we've had the government officials come to speak with us, but when we asked them if they're going to be changing anything based off of talking with us, they'd always say no. So I'm like, okay, so this is just for publicity. So being someone who was addressing these issues kind of forced or put the pressure on the other candidates to really make a stance on these issues, so that I was ensuring that people's voices were actually being heard, and hopefully there would be a tangible plan in place so that whoever got elected, hopefully if it was me, it was not, but that's fine, there was still going to be something there. And then I'd also have some of the supports and extra information from other people to really bring that forward to our representative. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mary. Kaila, what motivated you?
Thanks, Holly. There are a number of reasons, but mostly because I was asked. I hadn't always imagined that I'd be running for office, let alone federal office, although I think there were hints in my childhood. I ran for student council and was on student council, and did various other initiatives like that. But really, I saw in the provincial election earlier in 2021, there was no candidate for Corner Brook in the end, and that frustrated me. I'm a longtime NDP supporter and volunteer, and I was worried that there might not be a candidate, and I thought it was really important. It's always hard to know if you're ready, if this is the right time. A lot of things in my life just sort of signaled to me that it's maybe not the right time, but when is the right time? And if there's an opportunity to step up and to lend my voice to a cause I believe in, then it was the right time. So that's the primary reason for me.
Okay, thanks. And, having done it myself, you're absolutely right. There is no right time. It's, you just do it. Okay, so the next question will be going to Melissa first. And I wanted to ask, what was the most challenging aspect of campaigning for you? So what aspect of contacting people, promoting yourself, whatever, what was a stretch for you? What were you least comfortable with?
The thing I'm always least comfortable with is actually just talking to people, especially media. So it was really hard for me to overcome that kind of social anxiety. So like when I did a radio interview with CBC, I went in with extensive but concise notes and powered through it. So just deep breaths, but yeah, it's hard to talk to people. That's what I have issues with. Just the social energy it takes is a lot.
Did you think that the media people were harder than, say, did you do knocking on doors? Was that the same kind of stress?
Definitely different kinds of stress. But for me, it comes from the same place of like having to talk to people. It's just that when you're talking to media, it's also going to be heard by a lot more people than you're talking to.
For sure. Mary, what about you? What was the biggest stretch in campaigning for you?
Not having a vehicle. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest challenge. So thank you also, Holly. I think about your kindness in carting me and my signs around quite often. I kept one of the signs, and when I see it, I was like, I would have never gotten those to people if you didn't help. But yeah, I don't have a vehicle. Public transportation here is kind of subpar, very subpar. So being able to actually do the outreach was a big challenge, especially because a lot of the days were so cold. I wasn't able to walk very far, and at the end of the day, my hands would just be numb from like trying to knock on someone's door and not having a place to like go in and rest. Like I don't mind walking anyways, but it was chilly and those signs are heavy. So that was I would have been able to reach out to more of the Corner Brook region if I had a feasible means to reach those homes, but unfortunately I couldn't. So it's mostly just Caribou Road area.
Yeah. But I had great fun driving around with signs. I always enjoy doing that.
Thank you.
Kaila, what was the biggest challenge for you?
I think for me, it was sort of the short notice of the campaign. I launched right into it and getting up and running with signs and sort of all the nuts and bolts, getting permits, not realizing that certain permits were needed to put up signs. And I owe a great deal to many of you here, Holly, especially, you showed me the ropes about how to do a lot of the things. And, Heather and Melissa, you both pitched in right away. But it's tricky to figure all that out as you're trying to juggle a lot of things. I was also working pretty much full time throughout it. And so it's tricky to balance all of that because I really wanted to get out there, and, I hadn't lived here for a few years. And so wanted to get my name out, get to meet people and get signs out. But it's tricky to figure out all the logistics and, on a limited budget and with limited resources. But it was also quite a fun challenge. I enjoyed it. Once you get running, it sort of feels easier once you figure things out, but I think about how much I learned in the space of 20 days, and it boggles my mind, and also gives me a lot of confidence for future endeavors.
Well, that's true. That learning on the fly aspect of it, I think we all have experienced. And yeah, it can be a boost. It really can. Pamela, what about you?
I think the opposite of Melissa. Because I have no issue doing this kind of thing or talking to the media or anything of that nature. For me, it's terrifying to knock on a door and speak to one person. It's absolutely terrifying to try to look someone in the eye and convince them that they should vote for you. I found it very difficult. The first time I ran in 2017, the first time I had to go out, I was sick before I went out. And my husband, Jerry, was holding my hand the whole way. And the first couple of doors, he spoke for me. This is Pamela Gill. She's going to do blah, blah, blah. I was so terrified. But I found the second time that I ran, it came a little more naturally. Once you get into the swing of it, once you've knocked on the first three, then after that, you kind of got your, not a spiel, but you've got your messaging, I suppose, in your mind. And the other thing I found difficult was fundraising. To ask someone for money is, even for me, harder than asking them for their time to listen to me. So, and fundraising is an important part of politics. I had a friend that said, whoever has the most signs wins. Thankfully, that's not true, or I wouldn't have gotten it last time. But yeah, fundraising and trying to come up with the money was very difficult. Yeah.
Well, actually, has said seconding fundraising. Fundraising, asking for money is a. Rest of you find that as well?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You cut out there for a second.
Oh, sorry. I noticed that Melissa in the chat seconded your comment on fundraising, and I'm wondering if the rest of you also found asking people for money a very difficult thing to do. Mary, did you?
Being a broke student, no. I'm just so used to being like, you have money? Okay. I did find it a bit like hard. There was one person knocked on their door and I was just like giving my pamphlet, and he was the sweetest man, and he came out, he's like, one moment, I got something for you. I was like, what do you mean you got something for me? I just got here, you don't know me. And they came back with like $50. I was like, what? So accepting that was a little, I don't know, it wasn't hard, but I just didn't, I was like, I don't see this kind of money regularly. I was like, are you sure you meant to give me $5? So that was a bit challenging. And trying to get funds, I definitely respect how challenging it can be. But I'm just kind of used to being like, yo, people, give me money, please.
What about you, Kaila? Do you find it difficult to ask people for the funds you need for the campaign?
I didn't. I do a lot of fundraising for different causes. So I think my friends and family are used to it. And I think I think for me, it was also, I think, the novelty factor. I think I have a lot of friends in Ottawa. I used to work in Ottawa, and I think they were just imagining that I was going to go to Ottawa and be there part-time and then be in Newfoundland part-time. And they were very excited. But so, no, I didn't mind. I think, people, I don't mind fundraising. I find it's a way to connect with people who in different parts of my life. And I kind of enjoy that part of it. I think being able to, then talk about how the funds are being used, with the signs, signs cost way more than I expected, and also then the logistics of getting them out. So sort of managing the expectations of donors, that's what I found a bit harder. People, saying, oh, I gave you money, like, when am I getting my sign? And it, when you're a small team of mostly yourself and a couple friends and volunteers, it's hard to get out around your work schedule and get out the sign. So I think more that for me was challenging, the expectations around that, or even the perceived expectations if they weren't.
Right.
So.
Okay, so the next question is Mary first. And this is the opposite of the previous question, which is what aspects of campaigning felt really comfortable and natural and good to you?
Oh my goodness. I think maybe speaking on the issues. So having a chance to sit down with someone and talk about what they want to see done. I think that might also be like a 2-in-1, because I would want to sit down and talk to this one person for such a long time that I'm not allowing like the space for everybody to share. And I know that we still have a finite amount of time, but trying to allocate that amongst everyone. But I think it was just really being able to hear people's passions and like echo the passions and being able to give them a response and being like, yeah, the NDP will be doing this, or like for education, like we do want free education, like medication's hard. We do want like free prescriptions for everybody. And I was like, oh, this is things that we are trying to be working towards, both like provincial, federal. I know there's some differences, but there are things that we had in place, and being able to like share that with others and see how they responded was just, it was heartwarming. I was like, yay, change.
Right. Okay. Kaila, what about you? What was your comfort zone in campaigning?
I think one thing I really liked was engaging with volunteers, engaging with people who hadn't volunteered before and were interested and, were animated by the issues, and the NDP, and then also friends who hadn't considered themselves political but decided to step up and help. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed trying to figure out, what kind of how people could help, and to meet with people from all different walks of life who wanted to support, who wanted to volunteer, and just the energy that brought. I also really enjoyed posting all the photos of dogs with my signs. That was real fun, and getting others to post signs, photos with pets was just really fun. And I enjoyed that, sort of the positive side of that, bringing people on board.
Right. Pamela? Well, yeah, go ahead.
What did I enjoy most? Is that the question?
Yeah. Well, what was right in your comfort zone? Well, you already said.
I said that I found talking to people one-on-one difficult, but what I didn't find difficult was I did a sort of series called Listening to Corner Brokers, and I would go around interviewing them, which is what I used to do for a living when I was a journalist. So it was kind of neat, because after I did the first couple, people were messaging me saying, oh, can I do one? I want you to interview me, kind of thing. So that was really in my wheelhouse as a former journalist. So I super enjoyed doing that and packaging it and putting it on YouTube and sharing my latest video and seeing people interact with those videos and comment on them and get affirmation from them. And that was super cool for me.
That's a really interesting approach too, to get people's point of view. That's something to try another time. Melissa, what about you? What was your comfort zone in campaigning?
I would definitely say that writing my own copy was my comfort zone. I wrote close to 10,000 words for all of my different like platform posts. So this is besides all the like little social things and comments and tiny posts. I wrote well, 4 weeks worth of posts. It was a lot of writing, and it was something that I'm really interested in and really passionate about. So it didn't feel like a lot of work to me. It was everything else that did, but not the writing.
And the writing pays off too, because then it's there, it's always there. Someone can go back and look at that. That's a good thing to, as a former English professor, I'm saying that that's a good thing to spend your time on. Okay, thank you. So Kaila, you're first on the next question. What was the most exciting moment of the campaign for you? I'm assuming there were exciting moments.
There was an exciting moment when, I got together with a group of new volunteers, people I had just met through sort of Twitter, and they were interested in helping out. And we got our t-shirts and we were about to be interviewed by the media. And for them, some of them, it was their first time being on camera like that, and seeing everyone wearing the t-shirts and getting excited and doing hair and makeup. It was just, so much energy. And that was it. We were in front of the Corner Brook sign, so it's just it felt really good, and there was a lot of energy, and I really enjoyed that.
Actually, that does sound good, and I remember seeing that as well, so it did pay off. Pamela, moment in your campaign? You're muted still, Pamela.
Sorry, I was really wrapped up in what Kaila was saying. I don't know. The whole thing was exciting. Every day I woke up and I thought, I'm going to wear my Vote for Pamela Gill t-shirt and walk around and look like an idiot all day long, because I actually did have a t-shirt that said that. I don't know. It was just kind of cool that people would recognize me in grocery stores and liquor store and not the liquor store. Sorry, not the liquor store. The bookstore and the library. The whole thing was kind of cool. The first time, not so much, because I think the first time nobody knew who I was, or I think sometimes it takes a couple of tries to really have people notice who you are. And I think the whole thing was exciting. And of course, when I won, it was pretty exciting, but that technically wasn't part of the campaign. So when I won, I didn't believe it. The night of the election, we were watching the returns. Oh, this was probably an exciting, well, at least an apprehensive moment. And we were watching the returns come in, and it got to a point, and I said, nope. We have to go right now and take all the signs down. We have to take them all down tonight. I want no trace of me in the morning. You do get, a couple of days to take them down, but who wants their name all over the place when you just lost? Like, seriously. So we went out in the car. Jerry and I went all around the city, took like 120 signs down in 2 hours. And when I got home, I walked in the door and there were all these people in my house. They were saying, where did you go? We've been trying to. And I didn't even take my phone with me. I didn't want anybody to be able to contact me. I was so certain I was going to lose. So that was pretty exciting to get home and realize I was wrong. Anyway, enough for me.
That is exciting. Melissa, was there any excitement in your campaign?
Not particularly. It's a pretty quiet district, honestly, and I ran a fairly quiet campaign. I guess the most exciting thing was when I was on the radio, which was more stressful than anything for me.
Well, that's a kind of excitement.
Absolutely.
Mary,
was there any exciting moment in your campaign?
I guess it's kind of like dependent on what your definition of excitement was. When I had my parents out here, because my parents aren't from here, they came out to help me after my mom was very reluctant. She's like, oh no, Mary, you're not going to do that. You still have to finish school. I was like, finish it on the same day. It's fine. Same day as the election. We got this. But they came out and my dad was putting one of the signs in the ground for me, and just his smile, I was like, I'm doing something right. So that was really nice. And I think the other most memorable, maybe not necessarily most exciting, was when I went to one street, there was one house that had a conservative sign. So it's like, they're probably not going to want to talk to me, but I'm going to talk to them anyways. And when I went to their door, they were already out, and I was like, "Hi, like just letting you know, I'm Mary Feltham. This is sorry, I have many cats. This is Chloe. This is Callie. They are my advocats, so they come around quite often." But yeah, I was saying how I was the NDP candidate for for Cornerbrook, and I just want to let them know who I am. If they had any questions, like I recognize you have a conservative sign, so I'm not sure if you'd be interested in hearing much from me. But then they said how they were an employee of Nalcor, I believe, and I was like, oh well, okay, I guess you're definitely not gonna want to be involved with me. And he just had such a polite conversation to me, and he said, yeah, like I'm definitely going to be voting the way I feel is best, but if you get it, I think you'll do well, and good luck with it. And I was like, not what I anticipated, because I've had some people just like shut doors in my face and be like very rude, and that was just a very wholesome interaction, and it kind of was nice because it was two, I guess, very stark, the most stark differences in political parties at the time, and there was just the support, and I was like, thank you. So yeah.
Yeah, it is nice to get people who are polite, even when you know that they disagree with you, because yeah, they're not always. I was going to ask our non-panel participants if any of them have a question that they would like to address to our panelists, to Kaila and Pamela and Mary and Melissa. Please feel free to type one in the chat and we will work it in. But in the meantime, while our spectators consider whether they'd like to answer a question, we'll just go on with the questions that I already have. And the next one is Pamela first again. And I was wondering, was there a really difficult, awkward, hard moment during the campaign? And if so, how did you handle it?
I think it was when I thought I had my signs on public property, but really it wasn't public property. And the property was actually owned by another candidate. And I kind of, got told.
That sounds awkward.
That's not fair. Everybody had signs there. So I wasn't the only interloper, and to be fair, he didn't ask me to take it down, but it was just an awkward moment where I had that realization that, oh, what do you mean it's not a public fairway? What do you mean I can't put this here? And then in the end, all those signs got stolen anyway. So it worked out well in the end.
The interesting things that happen during campaigns.
Yeah.
Melissa, did you have any awkward or difficult moments?
I mean, there's always some contention while discussing things with people, but I think the most difficult thing on any campaign was actually during Kaila's, and it was trying to keep signs in place in Rose Blanche, because I don't know what it is down there, but people like to just throw them away or toss them out or probably burn them. But like, I put at least 4 different signs down there, and I think I got one back.
That's an interesting point about Rose Blanche that I'd never heard before.
It's really interesting. There was a few places where like I just could not keep them in place.
I had the same experience, Melissa, with Kaila's signs. Go ahead. I do put up signs for Kaila. And only 2 came back, I think. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, everyone. And I suffered up in Grossmore trying to get signs to stick in the ground. What's this rock? And why can't signs go in? And I learned a lot about sign construction. Heather knows Tony, who helped me out when he saw how my signs were going up and they weren't properly structured, and he could help me build them a little better. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah,
That's definitely something I will seek more volunteers on next time.
the technicalities. Yeah. Mary, was there a difficult moment during your campaign?
I'm thinking now it's probably also signs, getting them up and such. And on that note, I still have one of your signs. It's in my back room. It's fine. When you run again, I'll just put it back out front. You're good. Yeah, I think it might have been putting up signs, or like when people were a little rude or discrediting of me, like when I said, "Oh, are you even old enough to run or old enough to vote?" And how some people, I guess, might have just looked at me and discredited me right away without listening to me, or that's at least how I felt. I don't know how accurate that was, because some people did say it was nice to see youth running. So
Kaila, what about you? Is there a particularly difficult moment?
There was one moment in the campaign that I found toughest, and that was the Western Environment Center put on a debate, 100 debates on the environment. So it was part of a series across the country. And it was myself and Goody Hutchings, the incumbent MP, who were part of it. And I had prepared, had some support from the party, but during the debate, I think I was quite tired it was, sort of 3 weeks in, and just felt underprepared. And, I just wasn't entirely sure how to answer. And I think I was struggling between answering how I would answer just off the cuff and then using sort of prepared notes from the party. And I think I struggled because I was wanting to represent the party, but I could feel myself not coming off as natural and not really saying the things that I wanted to say. And sort of in the moment when you're on a panel and realizing that and having that internal debate, it can throw you off a little bit. And I felt that I threw myself off in that moment, but it was a great learning opportunity. I don't have any notes now, partly for that, trying out a different strategy, but it was a tough moment. There were some tears afterwards.
It is difficult to take part in those formal debates, in my experience, as well. So yeah, I understand what you went through there. I really do. We do have a question from one of our audience members, Kathleen, who wants to ask if each of you would be willing to let your name stand again as a candidate. So Melissa, starting with you, what do you think?
Absolutely. This is something that I've wanted to do my entire life. Like, I talk about policy all the time to the point where it drives my family and my friends nuts. So I want to keep doing it. So I'm going to keep volunteering. And if my DA votes for me to be on the ballot next time, then I will do it.
Good for you. I'm going to remember that too. Mary, what about you?
yes, definitely. I wanted to in the last elections. Actually, the last federal election, I was also asked to represent Gander because that's my hometown. But it just unfortunately wasn't feasible at the time because my only source of income was through the elected position of the GCSU. And although it's only like $4,000 over 4 months, that's still my rent is $800. So I was like, I can't give up my only source of income for something that I might not get. So once I'm done school, which will be May, I will gladly run again.
Glad to hear it. Kaila, what about you?
Yeah, much to my dad's chagrin, all of my signs are stored in his shed. So I would like to put them to use again. They were such a pain to figure out how to make. It would be nice to use them again. But in truth, I would love for another candidate to come forward and be part of a team. I think I didn't have a dedicated campaign manager during my campaign, and I would love to be able to help someone by being their campaign manager. So this is a pitch. If anyone is considering running, talk to us. I would love to help out, but I'm also prepared to run as well. I think the more people engage, the better. And I had a really good experience, and hopefully can stay involved next time around.
Yeah, I still have one of your signs in my shed too. So I'm ready. Pamela, what about you?
Yes.
Simple answer. Good.
No, I mean, yes, of course, I will run again here. And then when I retire to Cowhead, I will be running there. So, wherever I live, I will run.
Ah, excellent. We have another question from the audience. James asks, have you ever felt the urge to quit in mid-campaign? And if so, then what made your inspiration come back so that you could continue? So where are we? Mary, it's your turn to go first. Did you have the urge to quit in mid-campaign? And think not just of, running provincially, but I mean, you're in student government. You've run for student government too. Consider that as well.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking, I don't know if during the provincial one I thought about it because it was like I kind of joined at the last day that you could. So there wasn't much time to think about quitting. But in student politics, oh my gosh, all the time. I'm always thinking, I'm like, I've also been there for like 5 years and most people have a 2-year term. So lately I've been thinking I should step back to give other people the chance. But before then, I would always be thinking, I'm like, am I doing what people need? Like, am I able to fully commit myself to what people need? Like, am I not making people happy? I guess there's a lot of like self-doubt and a lot of criticism, the imposter syndrome, all those fun things that happen, especially when things of conflict arise and people start lashing out or putting it on the person who's in lead, even if that's not directly their decision, it's still the scapegoat for it. So that's definitely been something I've thought about a lot. But I guess what makes me think about keep going is I'm like, well, I keep getting elected in this position. So clearly people do like what I'm doing. And if they don't want me, then I'll let the vote speak for themselves. It's important for them to have that opportunity. And lately, my, I guess, slogan through life is I want to fail because that means I had the opportunity to try. So then I get to learn more things. And just knowing how I can make a difference, even, oh, thank you for the chair. Woo! Even if I don't get to the end goal, I'm still able to bring a lot of change with me and I'll be able to pave the way for somebody else to get there a little easier next time. Like we're breaking down a lot of barriers, one mallet at a time. I broke my mallet last time, breaking all those barriers. So got a new mallet.
Oh, thanks, Mary. Kaila, what about you? Did you feel the urge to quit?
I think maybe similar to what Mary said, the period of campaigning was so short that no, I didn't. And part of my motivation was to be sure that there was a name on the ballot. So it definitely wasn't an option for me. But, the tough moment after the debate had me questioning, am I cut out for this? Is there would be many debates. Would I be able to do it? That sort of, like Mary was saying, the imposter syndrome definitely kicked in, and tough moments of, trying to speak with people sometimes one-on-one and not being sure of myself. They were tough moments. But you look at them and say, okay, this is an area that doesn't come as natural to me as other areas. So I need to focus my energy on that. And it tells you a lot about it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Pamela?
I've never got to a point where I wanted to quit, but there were definitely moments that were very discouraging, most of them precipitated by the trolls on social media, whether it be what I was wearing or mostly what I was wearing. But they were just trolls. And it took me 2 full campaigns. The second one really was the one where I realized you can't take stuff personally either. Just never mind about that garbage. Like, people are idiots. So let them be idiots and you continue doing with what you're doing. Don't keep your eye on the ball. And I know it's a sin to say that you got to get a thick skin, because I find that sad that you need to do that. I find it would be so refreshing if you could just be yourself and not have to worry and not have to get a thick skin, you know, but you kind of do have to get a thick skin. And I don't know if I'm there yet. I'm still today, I blocked a guy for saying something on my page. So, you know, the haters
Well-
gonna hate, but it's never made me want to quit.
Then you win. Melissa, what about you?
Like everyone else said, there were points where things were frustrating, but I never got to a point where I wanted to actually remove my name from the ballot. Just, I wanted a lot, and I think we need representation, and I wanted people to be able to see a name on there that they could associate with the region that they knew was trying, that they knew was from here, etc., etc. So yes, I got frustrated, never wanted to quit.
Good. And, you know, there's a point, I mean, you can't take your name off the ballot anyway. You can quit, but you can't take your name off the ballot. So.
That's true.
Okay, so we have another audience question, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Diatra. Okay. The question is, how are you feeling about provincial and federal NDP directions, and how has this impacted you, if at all? And now we're at Kaila having the first opportunity to respond.
Sure. Well, I was pretty excited, you know, that with the NDP's decision to allow the Liberal government to have a little bit longer and to for that agreement. I think there was no appetite for an election in 2021, and there's no appetite for another snap election. And so I think it's important for all the parties, you know, to have time to rebuild, regroup. And in general, I think, you know, I'm pretty excited. I found when I was campaigning, all of the issues that I was hearing, you know, when I was talking to people were things, all the concerns, you know, I think the NDP had a really strong platform of things they were pushing for. And I'm really excited to see some of those being able to get carried forward, and especially, you know, expanding access to Medicare and, you know, pharmacare. All those things are things people really want. And, you know, I'm pleased by that direction. So I feel like it made my job easier because the party's positions, you know, were in line with what people wanted, and I felt comfortable speaking about it. So that felt good.
All right, thanks. Pamela, did you want to respond to that question?
I vote for the person usually, not the party. I have aligned myself with all the three, well, maybe not PC, actually, no, not PC, never mind. But I have aligned myself in the past with people who have run for both Liberal and NDP. I have voted both ways. Although I would consider myself to be more towards NDP than Liberal. But anyway, that's not what you asked me. You didn't ask me what my stripes were. But I don't know why I feel like I need to tell you that. But anyway, I agree with Kaila that I think there needs to be some rebuilding done, especially on the province side of things. And and this is not helpful. I know it's not helpful, but I really miss Jack Layton. I really do.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not helpful, I know, but that's where I sit. I don't know if that was answering the question or not.
Oh, thanks, Pamela. Melissa, did you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. Provincially, I am very happy, and I don't just say that as somebody who's sitting on the executive, but the resolutions that we passed have been really, really interesting, really good direction. We've been seeing some good growth. Like, I'm really happy with our direction provincially. Federally, I'm more on the fence, but that's partly because of a little bit of ignorance on my part. I'm not super involved in federal politics. So like what I see is okay. There's things I disagree with, but that's generally the case in politics. So like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I'm okay with federal NDP direction, but I'm really happy about the provincial direction.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Mary, did you want to respond as well?
Yes. So what Melissa just ended with is exactly how I feel, because I have been a bad past political candidate and person involved in politics and have not been keeping in the ups of what's happening. I feel like, for those who don't know, I'm a nursing student and I'm doing the accelerated system and I'm working basically full time. So I have no time. I don't know what's happening besides the medications I have to give my client at a specific time. So maybe come May, I'll be able, and I feel bad that I say that I don't have the time to keep up on this because a lot of it is so important, especially when we see our neighbors in other countries having laws and new political stances change very drastically that impact a margin of folks. So I definitely need to make the time, but I feel like any time I have for reading just goes to sleeping right now. So I'll have to put on a podcast or something while I sleep and learn that way. But I do like with Kaila said about the NDP choosing to support the Liberals. That has been when I heard about that. It was actually from my partner who heard it from Twitter. So I just hear it from the chains of Twitter partner Mary. That I was happy and pleased about that. So sorry, I didn't answer very well, but I'll definitely have a conversation once I do my research.
Mary, you don't need to feel bad about not having time to do anything. You have plenty on the go. We should be winding up shortly, but I do have one more question that I want to ask you all, which is what advice would you have for someone who is considering running for office themselves? And Pamela, it's your turn to go first.
I'll just echo what I said before. Try not to take things too personally. That's my one piece of advice is you do what you got to do and never mind about anybody else. And if other people have other opinions, that's fine. It doesn't have to be your opinion. Just don't take those dissenting opinions personally and keep your eye on the ball.
All right, thank you. Melissa.
First and foremost piece of advice is do it. Do it. Just go ahead and run. It'll be time no matter what happens. Second piece of advice is if you can buy one piece of campaign material, it's to do mail outs. They are somehow ridiculously important.
Yeah, I agree with you actually on that. I think mail outs are an excellent campaign tool. Mary, what about you?
Melissa, my homie, you're taking my answers again. Mine was like, just do it, you know, the meme. But I think putting yourself out there is hard. So recognizing that it's okay to ask for help in any regard is important, because I feel like once we're putting ourselves out there to be leaders, sometimes we feel like we have to do it all. But delegation is really, really important. And we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for others. And by delegating and asking help from others, we're learning new insight. We're also allowing something to thrive beyond ourselves because we're giving other people the tools and such to do it. So thank you. That's what I've been telling myself about leaving student politics. I was like, delegate, move on. So I think that's my main thing is be a team, and like how wolves act, the leader's always at the end, the back of the pack to make sure no one gets left behind. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Mary. Kaila, is there anything you want to add?
Well, Mary just expressed beautifully what I was thinking. So I was going to say also that don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think help can come in so many different ways. And for me, I really learned, you know, that if someone makes a comment on Twitter, don't be afraid to send a DM after and see if they're interested, because people who I know for myself, sometimes you just need to be asked. And so a lot of people became part of the campaign just because of that, or to reach out beyond social media as well and figure out people in your network of different generations who have the time and resources to help as well. It took me a long time to learn that lesson in the 4 weeks of campaigning, but I'm really glad, and a lot of things for the future, for future campaigns, whether I'm running or helping out with another campaign, I'll take that. So yeah, not alone.
That's a good way to look at it. Reach out in all directions. I got to thank you all for taking part in this and being so willing to discuss your various experiences. You brought a lot of experience and intelligence to this that I really appreciate, and I think that those who sat in and listened to it appreciated hearing about your experiences. So thank you, Kaila, Pamela, Mary, and Melissa, and thank you all who are listening in, and have a good evening.
Yes, and thank you, Holly,
The
for being an
opportunity.
excellent moderator.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's good.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, good night.
Thanks.